Hello everyone, welcome to a Polytopia video. This video is going to be about a very interesting Kickoo matchup I played against BlueCheesecake. Yeah, that's definitely the name of the player. Just to be clear, I am pretty sure this is not who you're probably thinking of. Anyways, oddities aside, the reason why this game is interesting is because this is a Kickoo matchup on a small continents map that goes up to turn 30. Because the game kind of ends up resulting in a pretty brutal stalemate, and even with that, the game actually ends somewhat abruptly, more because my opponent made a particular mistake and not really reaching its natural conclusion. If it wasn't for that, it actually probably would have gone for quite a few turns further as well, which I'm actually glad it didn't, because playing this game was actually getting quite frustrating. But in a way, I would have liked to see how this game would have actually turned out if it was to continue from beyond the point where it ended. One last thing I will mention before getting into the game itself is this video took me a while to make, so much so that by the time this video is released, a whole new update has actually come out, and I've had basically no time to actually try it out, but from what I hear, Aquarian is quite insane now again, and I very much do want to try and check that out, but yeah, we'll see when I can actually really get to do that. So getting into the actual game, you might notice that both me, the purple Kiku, and my opponent, which is the green Kiku, have actually gotten the corner spawn without our capitals being connected to the main water body on the map, which would normally be an absolutely terrible spawn for a Kiku. And it is, but both me and my opponent have gotten the same, so it evens out. Now, despite the corner spawn being even, my opponent actually still gets a quite significantly better spawn, which I'll explain a bit later on. But yeah, for the most part, the early game is kind of more or less the same, which is just standard Kiku stuff. I will now show the entire rest of the replay before giving further commentary. Now, an immediate aspect that we can get into onto the uneven spawn is my opponent has clearly quite a bit better village generation, at least next to their city. They are immediately able to capture the first city like exactly on turn 3. The opponent also conveniently has quite a bit better resource generation in the capital, and just by taking hunting and with the lighthouse, they're able to immediately upgrade their capital also optimally, which I do not have the same luxury, of course. But I also have quite a lot of animals in my second city, so that's where I also go hunting, which could also obviously lead into forestry, because both of us obviously have a lot of forests. One of the already weird place right here is they go for an explorer in their third city, which I genuinely am not sure is correct. They, in the position that they're in right now with the fog, like, knowing that this is a continents map, I feel like there is no reason why they could be suspecting that I'm anywhere close to them. And like an explorer here is pretty unwarranted, I would say. And to be fair, yes, very much this explorer doesn't really get any useful vision other than obviously getting the lighthouse, but the lighthouse also is not really that useful to them anymore, as they've already gotten the city to level 4 and they would eventually get the lighthouse no matter what. So that explorer was kind of pointless, I do feel like. At the same time, though, I actually don't even place my port in order to start getting my unit on the water. I instead place a port in the second city in order to upgrade immediately because, yeah, this second city also kind of has pretty terrible resources. I think later on in the game I do discover it does actually have 2 farms, but the city actually does have pretty terrible resources. 3 of its tiles are water, but it has only 1 fish, and it has 2 forests with no animals. So in order for me to upgrade the city, I actually have to get a fish plus a port, and I decide that it's better to get the stars earlier than place the unit on the water. This is the next play that kind of confuses me. In their position here, they go for riding, which is again really confusing. I do not know why they would be tempted to get riding. Riding, by the way, does end up being a pretty important aspect of the game later on, but in this position, I think it's silly. And I honestly, if they hadn't taken riding, who knows? The game may not have evolved in the way that it did. But yeah, like they could have. Riding kind of doesn't really serve them anything. Like I guess they would have maybe thought that like maybe these continents were connected. They should be able to also tell that like okay, this is water here, my opponent is probably in the other corner. They may have thought that they were connected, so they went for riding. That's my only real explanation, but I don't know, man. Like I in a Kickoo mirror matchup, going for riding is a pretty interesting choice. And again, like I wouldn't say this necessarily looks like the continents are connected because yeah, like there's a river that clearly goes out to this ocean, so yeah. And yeah, I can finally place a port and actually get both of my units on the water. They capture their fourth city and they upgrade. Because of their better village generation, and again, I'll mention that in a second. But yeah, they're already on capturing the fourth city. Meanwhile, I'm on 3. And another again odd thing here is yeah they take an explorer, which to be fair, right now the explorer obviously is good because now that this explorer has like actually explored this corner of the map, this explorer is all but guaranteed to go towards me and actually review me. So the 2 explorers in total do end up paying off, and the opponent doesn't meet me here, but again, I'm not sure why they went for these explorers in the first place. Like, it's not like they really needed the vision that much right now. It does eventually help them, but like, I honestly don't think it was correct. I myself, right now, with my stars, take sailing and get a scout in order to view much of the ocean. And yeah, I discover 2 villages plus a ruin. So obviously, in order to not waste the stars for my scout, I go for the ruin and for more vision onto the ocean, and that actually also gives me the vision to reveal the opponent as well, which is really convenient for me that they place this raft here. But and with these extra stars, I can also change a few warriors as well. The opponent also sees that I shooting them, so they also go for a sailing and a scout as well. They thankfully can get only 1 scout, so they can't knock me off the ruin. And at least one thing that I get through this game is yeah, the ruin ends up giving me a veteran armor, which is huge. And basically the only real like lucky moment in this game that like I get over the opponent. The really main unfair part that comes from this particular map generation is if you look at it, I have basically four cities all next to each other on my continent, which are honestly by all next to each other. They're actually kind of more spaced out than their like kind of first four villages. They on their continent have six villages that are generated here that they can easily get to. Which again, they're all also like as close to each other as possible. They get like just the most optimal, like closest village generation. Meanwhile, yeah, my ones are spaced a bit here. now, other than that, I do have a city in the water here, which I can clearly get to first. So that would put me at 5. And there is this city here in this corner, which I believe the way this map was generated, this city, I believe, is meant to be part of my continent. If it was, then both me and my opponent would have, 6 cities on our continents, so we would be even. Now, the thing is, this city obviously does have the connection to my continent through a one tile gap, kind of something from a lakes map that they need to cross in order to basically get to the opponent's part of the map. And there is meant to be a river dividing up these two continents, which rivers are meant to have the natural water divide that should have me be able to get to this village first. But obviously, instead of that, first of all, this village, in order for me to reach it, I have to cross like this narrow one tile gap in order to get to what's effectively the opponent's part of the map. And at the same time, the river that's supposed to be dividing my opponent from reaching the city, of course, has been generated with like a diagonal crossing, which like very much is like a thing that happens in this game with rivers that honestly kind of makes like the whole point of them pretty obsolete. That's actually like one pretty big aspect of why like especially smaller continents maps can be super unfair. Like not quite to the level of lakes maps, but somewhat close. Rivers on the continents maps are meant to divide up land masses so that the opponent should be locked to the particular piece of land that they have. And in order to get to the other one, they have to like start crossing the water. But the rivers that are supposed to do that sometimes actually generate with having like weird like diagonal gaps that actually allow you to pass through them without even needing to get on the water. So not only, of course, is this like a mirror matchup, so like getting on the water is not really that much of a problem. Even if this wasn't here, this village just being like closer to the opponent means that they would still usually be the first one to get it. Not only that, but this village is the river that's supposed to be separating this village from his landmass has also generated with this diagonal crossing, which very much basically just gives this village to my opponent. I believe the map is generated. This is a city that I'm supposed to have, but is generated in a clear way that the opponent is going to get this instead. So the opponent basically just has a clearly better spawn where they will just eventually get more cities in the late game. And yeah, it would be 7 to 5, which is actually like a pretty big difference too. So in terms of like all the other stuff, if we are to say that in terms of resources, we are even, the opponent's capital resources are better, but I have really good resources in my other cities. Throughout the game, we both of us actually have two ruins that we're gonna get to, and I guess a minor spoiler, I will say, basically almost every ruin was a star ruin for both me and the opponent. We both got the same amount of star ruins this game, and really, I would say the only actual like luck factor I had going for me in this game was yeah getting this ruin here and getting this veteran armor. Getting this veteran armor was honestly probably the best reward I could have gotten from this ruin because it helped me so immensely to be able to actually compete and control the water even while my opponent was actually ahead and they were already able to start placing two units on the water per turn. Meanwhile, I still had to capture these two cities in order to be able to match that. This veteran armor was probably the best thing I could get. But yeah, we'll continue. So that's the like main that I decide to go for. So yeah, with this getting the armor, I decide that I very much have to try and first get these villages in order to start placing units on the water from them. So I go for that one. I decide to go for that one, and the opponent does some like odd stuff with chaining and positioning a bunch of rafts here, which I'm not sure what exactly this was for, but I mean, yeah, to be fair, like, it's not really worth for them to upgrade anything into scouts because the rammers obviously just going to one shot it. So they might as well just spam a bunch of rafts here. And yeah, they captured that city and stuff. Actually, yeah, they actually captured two cities over here. And so with that, the difference between us is currently 6-3. I'm also about to capture one, but yeah, they now go for another explorer, which I mean which at this point just gets almost complete vision on me. But yeah, we get a star ruin which helps us. And with the star ruin, I'm able to go for forestry right now. And finally, I trained a warrior last turn to get the corner lighthouse, and I can upgrade the capital to level 3 against something the opponents did on, I believe, turn like 4. At this point, my economy has kind of caught up a little bit to theirs, but yeah, because at the very least, the resources they have in these cities are not the greatest, and they also don't have the stars to upgrade them. So, and also because they took so many explorers, at this point of the game, our economy is kind of even. Instead of killing this scout with my rammer, I actually decide to get another scout that can shoot this one for the vision and yeah, and in order to place my rammer right over here to prevent them from being able to do too much with their rafts. So they also get star one, which allows them to go for ramming. And yeah, they can start getting rammers, and with two rammers, they actually kill the one they got from the ruin. What I'm able to go for right now with 19 stars is in this city, with all of the animals and forests I have here, I'm able to go for a giant. I have the exact amount of population to go for a giant. The rammer I got from the ruin, slowing them down, and me getting a giant earlier on turn 10 is basically the two things that allowed me to win this game, despite the horrible spawn. With the other stars, I am able to go for a scout, which, by the way, I still do not have vision here. For the most part, I can tell that, again, it's a really weird map, but this should be a river that's like separated the opponent from being able to get to this landmass, and they have just captured the city. So, to me, okay, I have a chance to maybe try and get what's here already. Not knowing that they, of course, had taken like 3 explorers for some reason this game. They had already perfect vision on everything that's here. And obviously, and there also was a one tile gap that they could send riders to. But yeah, I go for a scout, and yeah, and also with the monument. I obviously in a game like this, that's a small contest map, and I very much need the economy. I immediately place my monument for stars without even thinking about it, especially also because I also didn't have really much of a way to upgrade this city. So with that, I very much do place my monument for stars immediately, which is something I don't usually do, but in this game it was very much warranted. So yeah, and I train two warriors with the stars. They have vision already, so they can just go and hit the scout. Now they also, again, another kind of strange thing that they do, which again, it's weird because they basically have all the vision on me that they need in order to make the optimal play. But yeah, they go for the ruin first instead of the village. I don't know why, because I can't kick them off the village, and that's definitely the thing you usually want to go for first. And they go for, well, first of all, healing this rammer and directly sending this one to right here. But yeah, the opponent places base. The opponent finally upgrades this city and places a port in this one, and they have now 3 cities that they can place things out of. But I'm not gonna scout. We take ramming before capturing here because obviously at this point we're going to need it. And what we're able to do right now is we place our juggernaut here, which you are going to notice immediate with the splash damage, it immediately does 5 damage to the rammer, which is more than it would have done before the update. This is a change that I again I have not seen this change mentioned anywhere. Eventually I'm stupid and the change was mentioned somewhere, but I just didn't see it. But I believe Juggernaut's splash damage was buffed, which, by the way, very much is good. Like that was very much kind of something that was probably needed. The Juggernauts were actually kind of like weak as like the super unit you can put on the water. But yeah, I believe Juggernaut's splash damage was buffed, and I think it's buffed to a 2.5 damaging attack. Basically, the splash damage of a full health Juggernaut before the update would have been the equivalent to a 2 damage attack, which basically means it would have done the same damage as the warrior would. Now, again, that very much is not the case in this game, obviously, because a warrior normally does 4 damage to a full health rammer. But obviously, the Juggernaut did exactly 5 damage. And thus, this warrior actually can finish it off. Which, by the way, I wasn't even expecting. I didn't know of this, so I was actually planning to upgrade this raft to a scout in order to actually finish off the rammer. I believe it's now a 2.5 damaging attack because it also does not do the same damage as 3. In fact, if it was a 3 power attack, it very much would have dealt, I believe, 7 damage to the rammer. I also think that because they made the redemptions have a 2.5 damaging attack. So because they got to experiment with that amount of attack, they may have decided that this was an appropriate amount for the Juggernaut to have. We've seen a few turns in this game, but yeah, the Juggernaut with the stronger splash actually mattered a lot. The 2 power attack to 2.5, that may not actually seem like a big difference, but in this game it actually was. And it honestly may just made the Juggernaut like a lot better overall. But anyway, with that I was able to spend stars in order to upgrade the city, and I trained 2 more warriors. Now the opponent over here decides to, I guess, fully heal their naval units here, which was kind of odd. Yeah, the opponent kind of played like slightly passively. They did not upgrade anything. Instead, they went for forestry because obviously they also decided to go for a giant. In order to get forestry and get the giant on this turn, they have to chop a few forests. Towards the end of the game, like the resources actually did genuinely start mattering, so the shops didn't mean nothing. So with that, they placed their monument here immediately for population. I guess they knew they were getting a giant from the city as well, so they decided to just place it immediately and take population for the 1 star. Right. Well, they chop forest in order to chain warriors. Which yeah, they actually chop almost all of the like resources in these cities, which again eventually actually mattered a lot. With greater cities, and what we do go for now is yeah, rammers, and I still do not know that they've gotten a giant. So I know that in this position they have more cities, so I need to try and like aggro them down with me certainly gotten the giant first. So yeah, I go for a rammer and just try and start sending the juggernaut towards them. The opponent starts upgrading all of these ships, but I feel like they almost position them in the worst way possible within the second. So they get a scout, kill that rammer, a rammer for that. They do not go for this city, which by the way, again, they could have also gotten for it last turn with the like slightly damaged rider. And again, I do not know why they didn't. They had vision that I couldn't knock them off of it, so it was really bizarre why they didn't. But yeah, they go for another rammer. They get a giant here, which again I still don't have a vision to. And yeah, the way they ultimately had the rammers placed was kind of bad. In fact, it was almost like they tried to position their naval units so that this juggernaut could do as much damage with the splash as possible. The thing is, they could have placed it differently. They could have placed, for example, this rammer here, but they almost perfectly positioned their rammers in a way that, with the star win that they got, which again also was very helpful, allowed me to basically upgrade all of my ships right now to rammers as well. I'm able to basically completely destroy their navy from this point. So I move my Juggernaut forward, and again, even with it being smacked by a single rammer at 34 HP, it still did 5 damage to these rammers. And I get 4 rammers at this turn, which I can also very much send in a way that I kill all of the rammers here, plus the Sraft, and basically delete all of the units that they spent 15 stars on last turn. Now, again, obviously the opponents have now giants, which by the way, I don't even have vision on. So this is already the point of the game where I'm like, okay, the opponent has more cities, but I'm able to aggro them down. So I'm probably gonna win in a couple of turns. And yeah, like, in this position, I just now start sending my units forward. And yeah, it's not quite that. They obviously put the Juggernaut here. With this rammer can kill here. And I don't see now that being a Juggernaut. So I know they also have a Giant, so killing them won't just happen like that. But yeah, they also now get their 7th village, and we're officially 7 villages to 5, which again is still actually somewhat even in stars because again, My cities are way more upgraded. I am able to kill off the scouts for free, basically. And I basically am able to kill off all units on the water other than the giant itself. And yeah, I try and position this in a way that the Juggernaut doesn't splash them too badly, because also the Juggernaut does actually one-shots 10 HP rammers, which is kind of what we have for the majority of the game. Yeah, and I also decide to go for a siege on this city, thinking that, okay, they have a giant here, and I know they should have actually a second one. Basically, I'm thinking, okay, I will attack these two cities and have the opponent not be able to siege these cities with the giants, which I think is a fine plan. And I also immediately siege both cities with Aramba, which, to be fair, this is quite expensive. I'm effectively using a 7-star unit in order to put this warrior here. And yeah, they are actually able to deal with this now, see. But I do not have vision on what they have here. In fact, to be fair, can also only really guess how many cities they actually have. So I'm thinking, okay, chances are they can't unsiege both of these. But yeah, they just about can without even that really even being a problem for them. So this Juggernaut goes here, splashes these. So they unsiege with this with the rider. They put the second giant here. I also did not have vision on this giant, and that this was something that was also going to come down to the water. They effectively also go to destroy all of this group of rammers. And yeah, they just about unsiege here with this warrior, which is also conveniently being at exactly 7 HP, which could one-shot this one, and then it also exactly was getting promoted to a veteran. This is also the turn we get our second monument, the Gate of Power, and they also place it immediately for stars, which the monument there was probably correct. Yeah, so I now have to try and deal with these somehow, and just that's the way you normally deal with juggernauts. Just throw armors at them. They don't take retaliation damage, so if you just damage them enough to where they can't even really one-shot the rammers, they kind of become useless. But that's the problem. They have two, and again, they now do more splash damage. And in this game, us having only 10 HP rammers, I'm pretty sure we had to get the enemy juggernauts to like almost half HP in order for them to not one-shot the rammers. So I believe I actually got my Gate of Power last turn. I didn't place it immediately, which probably was incorrect because I was certain that that's how I was going to use it. But yeah, I place it now, take population, and get the second giant on the capital, seeing that they also have to. And the thing is, this second giant, for me, it's gonna take quite a bit more turns until it can actually get to the part of the map where it matters, unlike theirs. But I still had to get it sooner than later. I also end up shooting this with the scout in order to have the giant siege here, and that actually allows me to still kill this, to basically eliminate one other juggernaut. So that's that. Now, again, in this position with the vision I have, I'm thinking, okay, obviously this juggernaut one-shots this armor, it can splash all these, but that's gonna be really bad. But this giant would still be like a 20-something HP giant, and I don't see how they unsiege it. And I'm thinking like, okay, this has gotta win. Now, I also, in order for me to be able to train all the units that they want to this turn, I also end up having to drop a few forests as well. And to be fair, this play does force them to do something. They can't just unsiege as is, but they generally do have the units to. Because yeah, they for the last few turns they have started just training riders out of basically every single city in the back here. So now again, this does force them to buy roads because yeah, not all of these riders can actually reach here immediately. Yeah, but it does force the opponent to spend like most of the stars on this turn in order, yeah, spend 80 stars on this turn in order to get roads and road in a few riders in order to be able to unsiege this giant, which does matter. Yeah, so they link this here, which again gets them all the road connections in order to link, actually get these warriors here. They are forced to chop a few more forests in order to get this, but they just about have the roads to connect all of their cities, get their network monument, place it in this city for stars. My opponent in this game was actually on quite a couple of occasions making really weird choices, like getting riding early in the game, taking all the explorers, but they did play like very well towards this, and this is very efficient how they managed to like figure out exactly how to can get all the stars for this. And yeah, with the 5 extra stars, they can also chain a few warriors. And yeah, now they're gonna be ahead of me economically. They actually really next need to take organization, and they can upgrade these two cities as well, effectively to gain themselves stars. But I still am, to be fair, gonna have the upper hand on the water. Because, yeah, I'm still able to basically remove everything. Now, with this Juggernaut, the Juggernaut is a pretty big pain, but I at least managed to position my units pretty well. So that's the Juggernaut does somewhat minimal splash damage here, and I can still just about remove every single raft that they place on the water, while also getting this Juggernaut to half HP. And yeah, the Juggernaut's forced to just really move around and just damage armor and splash them. And yeah, they take organization, which again allows them to upgrade the cities and stuff. So they go up to 30 stars per turn. And yeah, they with organization they actually also discover basically every single tile that they didn't have a forest on, they actually have a farm on. So kind of ends up being perfectly fine for them. They eventually can still upgrade all of this. But other than that, this turn they can't actually really do much else because I've basically completely locked them out of the water. And all they can really do is like spam riders, which to be fair also matters. And yeah, they also can just with the road connections, they just about have the resources to get another giant. So yeah, I can kill off the giants and just again still remove basically everything. In this position, us going for a bit of a stalemate, I was thinking they probably would intend on going for navigation, to get the starfish and really just for the abilities to get bombers. So think that that was my immediate thought process. Okay, like now this is kind of a bit of a stalemate. So if we're going for navigation, I at least have more starfish here, and that's also the other next thing that at this point of the game still also allows me to slightly keep up with them economically. I go for navigation and I'm immediately able to harvest like 3 starfish here in the ocean because that's like one of the benefits I get from actually controlling the water. I really can't do much of anything other than just keep them off the water. So this is where like the stalemate comes into play in this game. The opponent has more cities than me, so like just puts them in such a better position for eventually in the late game. So and I know that I somehow need to break the stalemate. At the same time, I control the water and I can basically prevent them from really being able to establish any water presence on the map at all. And I need to do that because otherwise the opponent would just wreck me. They smack a bunch of riders into this, and they even smack this one because I mean now they just have a bunch of units, not anything else to do with them. And yeah, they try and just get a couple of occasional warriors on the water here, but that's about all they can do. I go for navigation myself, which for me is pretty valuable because navigation costs 19 stars. I get to starfish immediately. Yeah, I by the way last turn upgraded the raft that was here to a scout just in order to immediately move it to the starfish. Effectively, navigation just costed 3 stars for me right now, and yeah, I also see they have another giant. So yeah, by the way, a third giant for them. Meanwhile, I'm just getting my second one next to the port. So I can tell that I'm gonna need to do even more stuff to try and like block them off of here. So what I go for this turn, first after clearing all these rammers, is yeah, I go for a bomber and I can immediately place it here. And yeah, this bomber is in a pretty good position over here because it can immediately shoot like as far up to these cities and it can splash so many ground units. And the bomber is kind of what they would probably need eventually if the opponent just starts placing like a bunch of units and then immediately upgrading them to rammers. And yeah, I get this to a rammer in order to like prevent them from like actually getting like units here themselves. So this turn, they actually go for trying to, yeah, I guess overwhelm me and just place a bunch of units here. They also kind of make a mistake here. Yeah, they were trying to upgrade some of these 2 rammers. But the thing is, this was already too late. Me having one bomber here, basically, they allowed me to remove everything. So this bomber shoots here, a rammer straight, rammer here, and here, yep. And I can basically, again, remove everything but the Juggernaut. So, yeah, and this is where I finally place my Juggernaut on the water. And this Juggernaut can actually start threatening uh, their city over here. This game ends up being a big stalemate from here. Like, they try and break through this with this Juggernaut. They spam riders in order to, like, remove all of my rammers that trade into here every turn and also put some rafts on the water themselves in order to try and, like, have this Juggernaut push through. But that doesn't work. In fact, this turn, because of the starfish, I actually have the stars to get a second bomber, which I do decide I need, and that because it's also in a position where you can immediately hit the Juggernaut. So yeah, I can still just remove the Juggernaut. And yeah, after this, like I can still control the water, and I try to get my Juggernaut to here in order to siege the city, right? This is kind of what I see of them. Like this, they decide to throw a bunch of riders here at this raft. My perspective, they do all that. They leave so many like riders here vulnerable, and they all get killed by this bomber. So I do that, and then I siege with the 37 HP giant. And I'm thinking, okay, this now has to win the game, right? And yeah, I even can because of this, I can even just push this bomber like right up to here, like aggressively just push it. And yeah, no, I do even go for a siege here. So like, and I even clear this like random rider here that was left at 1 HP. In this position, I'm like, this siege must be ending the game. To be fair, what they're able to go for right now, they did in preparation, I guess, take farming last turn with again a lot of stars that they have. And because of again the pretty amazing resource generation that they have in their cities, that all the tiles that were on forest for farms, they're able to actually get the push for a giant here for 50 stars. Which yeah, delayed the siege by a turn. Even from this position, I still look at this and I'm like, they don't have an siege here, right? They were not able to siege here. And I do just about half the damage in order to immediately be able to siege here again with the giant. So, and yeah, again, I do that. To me, they don't have the siege here. Right, so basically 2 bomber attacks, 2 scout attacks, and a rammer attack, plus the giant, like that allows the giant to finish. And just about. And yeah, I have a bunch of stars left over too, so like I practically played some like rammers here and stuff, even when they don't even need them at this point because they don't even generally put more things on the water. But yeah, they just about have the units to unsiege this giant because they were spamming riders for the last like 5 or so turns. In order to unsiege a giant, you need 10 hits from a 2 power attack, right? That's basically 10 warriors, 10 riders, or the scouts, the same thing too, right? Like they did just about have them too, right? They have enough, and then they can yeah. And from this position, right, they even still train more riders. Now in this position, I'm in an interesting conundrum. Like this freaking opponent somehow managed to like chase down this whole giant with just riders. I decided at this point, retrospectively, I should have actually gone for earlier. But yeah, I decided to instead of basically sacrifice these scouts, throw them into his territory to actually see what the hell he has over there. And yeah, I mean, right now a bunch of damaged riders, but because like at this point, I can very much just start sieging every single one of their cities here. But like kind of obviously, the opponent just has the riders to. If they have the riders to unsiege the giants, like they have the riders to indefinitely unsiege like warriors from 3 cities, right? But this was the point of the game where yeah, I decided to, with the 38 stars I have, I couldn't really spend on anything. I go for organization and defenders organization and strategy, and I start training defenders with the idea that ultimately in the late game, this is what I'm going to try and do. My win condition is placing 3 defenders, like sieging all 3 of the cities with defenders, because each defender does take 4 riders to unsiege. So collectively, the 3 defenders, like even more riders than the giant, and also theoretically, I can maybe just do that like turn after turn, right? Every turn in a row, I can just keep doing that at some stage in the game. I decided, I guess that's my win condition because like I do not know what else could actually break the stalemate. So also another noteworthy thing, I do also decide to just siege cities, like just for the sake of, even though I very much suspect the opponent can always unsiege them, I do decide to just siege them just because like at this point these cities, having been upgraded to level 6, like this city makes 6 stars and this makes 5. So at this point, it's just sieging these cities is almost a fair trade. Like, obviously, I'm sieging them with what's effectively a 7-star unit. But yeah, I'm denying the opponent like 5 and 6 stars respectively. So at that point, it's almost a fair trade. And on top of that, right, I'm sieging here, forcing them to have to like spend stars on raids that have to like leave the sieges. And yeah, again, they just have the resources to also get upgrade the city too. And get more giants. And even in here, one thing that actually kind of annoyed me because that was already something I was planning to maybe go for. they actually upgrade here and take border road in the city, which would also allow them to eventually place even more giants. And yeah, I was trying to just toss rammers up here in order to like try and overwhelm them. That was my other idea. Maybe I just try and start getting rammers through this place, which also was like, yeah, because this is just a one tile like river. It was also very difficult to like try and put things here that would like push through. I'd have to get like another bomber or something just to actually have these rammers straight effectively. But yeah, probably worth skipping a little bit because at this point the game evolves pretty slowly. They had gotten another giant, and so on this turn they actually put it on the water. And with forestry they have enough to get a second giant. So now I was in another precarious situation because my opponent, I was literally about to start planning how to like push units up here of this chute, and instead of that, my opponent can actually start getting giants up here, right? And the very big problem was that I basically cannot get a bomber here. Like the reason why I'm able to deal with all of these giants over here so effectively is because big white water body. I can get bombers here, shoot them, and then like I can also easily get a lot of armor that surround them, and I can kill them very quickly over here with this like one tile river that also like they have a very easy connection to, so their rammers can just kill any fragile units. Like it was very dangerous because I could not really stop these juggernauts, and I do realize that. So with having saving stars for a few turns, I decide what to use them now is I go for mathematics, right? Way later into the game, after I have navigation and bombers, I decide to get mathematics for catapults. I very much do think I had to. Like that is the only way I can possibly stop these juggernauts from just coming here and destroying the city. And yeah, go for another siege here again, just kind of reward the stars. Now they also go for a weird play here. And yeah, they basically do kind of something they tried a few turns ago. They just land a bunch of items here on the water. I had the stars to get all of these things out of the water. And yeah, they also got occultism at this point with the amount of stars that they had, which to be fair, that also immensely helps the juggernauts as well. But if they were to try and create as difficult of a situation for me to deal with over here, it probably would have been better to just upgrade all these two rammers. But again, I'm not sure. Like the aquatism actually does help this. Plus, again, they're taking a tech that's like also really strong in the late game. Like thankfully over here with this, it's still pretty easy for me to remove them. Like all these rafts, very much just cost me only 15 stars, and I still even managed to chain a catapult here because I did decide it was probably better for this catapult to just start fighting here instead of like moving back, because chaining more catapults out of here probably would have been starting to get awkward. I did even get a 15 HP raft, like a defender in a raft that I didn't even upgrade. Just for the purposes of like, I'm gonna use this raft just to place it on the city, force them to be dealing with it. Yeah, like just to deny them the stars. And in this case, obviously this is literally just not even a positive trade, right? This defender costs like 3 stars to train, and yeah, put it on the city, cutting them off from 6. It was just work. That's one thing that I can immediately critique. I believe the opponent, what they should have done is, and I believe that would have been enough. They should have just landed this juggernaut here. Because that's the thing. This juggernaut, like being slightly damaged at this point, doesn't like do 10 damage to the rammer. So even this warrior hitting this rammer, which obviously they could do, this juggernaut still wouldn't one-shot it. They still have a way to kill it, and that's what I think they should have done. I do think that they should have landed the full HP healthy juggernaut over here, and that would have been enough for the second one to kill. Now, obviously, I can see why they didn't, because like obviously that then you have to like spend another whole turn putting this one on the water again. But I genuinely think that's what they should have gone for, because that would have actually pushed my things back further, right? And in that case, also this armor would have also been getting splashed by bots. So this it would have been on very low HP. So like it still would have been difficult for me to like deal with this juggernaut. It was like gonna be right over here. And yeah, like this giant just being here still also prevented this armor too. So like I actually very much think they should have landed their juggernaut here in order to have this one kill the armor. But yeah, definitely for me they didn't. I very much think it would have been way more. To be fair, this is like kind of the one point in the map they don't have the perfect vision on. So They may have thought like I could have something else scary over here. I don't really know, honestly. Kind of good for me that they decided to go for this. Like they kind of just took an extra turn to have their Juggernaut still be on the water. Like that, I very much think they should have done something else. And yeah, what they actually needed to do here as well, by the way, uh, because they landed, and that was a huge mistake on their part at this point, because they landed all of their ships, all of their like riders onto ships last turn, even including like some over here, which I don't even know why. Like, but yeah, because they decided to land all of their units over here, they actually don't have enough riders to on siege to leave this siege, this defender. Like they actually just don't. So what they actually go for now is, and they kind of just have the, it's kind of just pretty obvious for them anyway, but they actually take mathematics in order to place a sawmill here, which actually gets them the push. They actually have to push this defender, which is like pretty wild. I was very much a very big mistake last turn. The spoilers are in the filters are about to make it again. Oh, I think this is a mistake. Yeah, there's no reason why this rider should be here. They also make a mistake by putting this rider here in the range of the bomber, so the bomber can also just damage more of these, like again further reducing the amount of like now reduced riders that they have. And I just start shooting this giant because I was thinking they were probably obviously gonna go start putting it on the water. So I just start shooting down these giants, like, because I'm gonna need to eventually. And yeah, go for this 10 HP defender that they did get one hit on. Yeah, this 10 HP defender, which they did manage to smack once while in the raft, but yeah, it's still just like a 3 HP unit that like denies them the 6 stars here and forces like 3 riders to smack into it as well. So yeah, they can now go for this, which they also go for first hitting with the like healthier Juggernaut, which I also feel like at this point like they should have just this Juggernaut's basically dead, so like they should have just hit with this one to have like this one finish that they would have actually splashed this for a significant amount of damage. Like, I really think they should have done that instead. And they even go for smacking this defender here, which I was honestly kind of surprised by. Like, this defender has like a own. It has a few turns that you which can really start being like annoying and actually in the way. But yeah, they decided to just smack it, not to kill it with the giant, which is like pretty bizarre to me. And yeah, they even also go for smacking this rammer, which like again, like I really don't see why. Just damages the riders, puts another one here in which like can get splashed by the bomber. The bomber still doesn't have enough other targets to shoot at. Like over here, I genuinely think they start making some big mistakes. Like they put this one here next to like the splash zone. Like even though they could have put it back to here. Like the opponents are making some like silly mistakes here. And yeah, like they just had very little riders up here at this point. So yeah, I mean, I still just like shoot all these down, all that stuff. Like yeah, I actually killed this Juggernaut. So now obviously they can still like finish this rammer off, have this Juggernaut go forward. But yeah, like I was even kind of being overcautious at this point, and I had prepared like a lot of catapults down here in preparation for like needing to like straight up unsiege giants like straight up at this city over here. Like I was expecting the giants were gonna reach the city and like siege it by the time I can kill them. But yeah, before because the opponents kind of decided to move them very slowly. Like honestly, didn't even really need to chain that many. They've got less and less riders here, right? So I decided to go for sieges that are actually meant to be a bit more aggressive. Obviously, this one still just sieges the like city that generates them stars with a warrior. But then yeah, I decided to siege here with a defender, like the city that only again makes them like 3 stars. Because yeah, I noticed they have very little riders, and this actually is the thing that ends the game. Um, Again, they smack here. They actually just don't have the riders to siege these. Now, I don't know if they didn't like a full HP rider theoretically from this position, right? Like a full HP rider plus if they upgrade this to a scout could have unsieged here. Like these two could have unsieged. And then yeah, the opponent had 2 full HP riders and 2 damage riders and this warrior, which like is close. In fact, let me just calculate it. So yeah, let me try to calculate. We have a defender, and so for this defender they have 1, 2, 3 riders, and yeah, no, actually they had done siege here. Yeah, my opponent actually just goofed pretty badly. After they finish this warrior with these 2 riders, they now can't unsiege this, but they actually were able to unsiege this defender this turn. So yeah, and they resign on this turn because obviously losing the city, they could lose it in the game. And that's kind of, yeah, like the big mistake my opponent makes, really. That's the game ends super anticlimactically, like as amazing stuff that the opponent was able to do, like with like a rider spamming to leave sieges over here. Like the last few turns of the game, they really start making a lot of mistakes, like giving me like putting so many riders in the splash zone of the bomber when they really didn't even have to. And even in the last turn, I when I actually first played this game, I genuinely thought that they didn't have the riders. Even the last turn, they actually had enough to unsiege. They just smacked in a stupid way. Like so, yeah, it's bizarre. The game ends super anticlimactically. And again, I'm gonna say it again. I'm genuinely glad that it did. Playing this game was starting to be super frustrating. From this position, I at this point still probably had the upper hand. Like, cause this giant will actually just die in a few turns, right? Like they can get through this rammer this turn and they can put the giant over here, but yeah, then like two catapults shots here. This giant would have died next turn. And from this point on, catapults can now actually be the unit that I could put here that is going to be safe from their units, but will actually allow me to be able to push defenders up here on this shoot, right? And that's the thing too. This city is like separate from this by water. They do have a land connection here, but actually getting riders here to unsiege the city is very difficult. So at point, I think I would have finally been able to have the upper hand and just like actually outgrind the opponent by eventually just filling everything, all other cities with defenders. The thing is, again, the opponent also had mathematics, so they also could have gone for catapults themselves, and catapults are even better at sieging defenders than a rider spam. So I generally don't know. Like in fact, it probably would have been a good idea for them to start chaining some of the previous turns. And yeah, like if they had gone for that, like at that point, I do not know exactly what could have broken the stalemate. Like even a knight from the city like can't really like get past this because it's a random forest here. So I genuinely do not know what would have broken such a stalemate. And because of that, I am very glad I did not really get to figure out like where this game could have actually went up to. But yeah, this is ultimately what happens. This stalemate was really just ended by my opponent making like one mistake, or a few turns of mistakes, but one especially enormous one on the last turn. And if it wasn't for that mistake, I genuinely do not know how this game could have possibly ended in general. Not really sure like what I can try and like derive as the meaning coming out from this game. This is actually like a very naval aquatic heavy game where the main thing that the game revolved around was actually the Juggernaut, which to be fair is in fact something that's pretty rare. But other than that, I'm not really sure what like meaning you can derive from this. I just wanted to show it because it's a kind of an insane stalemate that like just logically thinking about it, I wonder where it could have actually ended up to. But anyway, end the video.